Hi everybody, this is Tanya from S19E6. So today is a review of Sister Wives Season 19, Episode 6. A few things going on here in this episode. Starts out with Mary and Robin talking about her poor Christmas, nobody's there. I think this is from like the previous episode even, that they were talking about like not even Mary is there this season or this Christmas. And it's just Cody and Robin and their kids, and so they're kind of sad about that. But then she talks about how Cody like rips into all the presents, and I thought of like this little selfish kid a little bit because that's how I think of Cody. But that's how it introduces it. And then it talks about Christine and the kids. They were together for Christmas, and it looked like everybody was there except for Gwen. So they looked like they had a good time, and they were having fun together and that kind of thing. And then it shows Janelle and Maddie, and it looks like she's spending quality time with her daughter and her grandkids. Mary ends up going to, or maybe the friends come over to her house, and she spends time with friends. Some people, like I've watched some of the reviews from this episode from other people, and they're like, well, why didn't Mary spend time with Leon? And we were just thinking like maybe Leon went to Audrey's family's house or property or whatever for Christmas, and maybe Mary, maybe it was too far away for Mary to go also, or maybe she wasn't invited. I don't know. But she ends up spending time with friends, and that's okay because Mary is free and single and doesn't have to worry about anybody. And if she wants to spend time with Leon, she can. If Leon's got other things to do, that's okay too, because Leon has their own life. Christine, it talks about her dating. She talks about how the kids feel about dating. She gets a matchmaker. She's talking about going on a couple of dates to where people are like, on the first or second date, like, what, you live polygamy? And then they're just like, no, we're stopping right there. I don't want anything to do with that. So I kind of wonder, like, is it because she lives polygamy, or they think that she still wants to live polygamy? Who knows, right? So this is when Christine talks to her kids about finding David. Like, they hit it right off, and on the second date she's like telling him about polygamy and that she was involved with Cody in the show and all these kinds of things. And he basically was like, okay, yeah, I understand what that's about. My sister lives polygamy. So Christine was like, oh, thank goodness, I don't have to explain with this. He totally understands. And they just kept on hitting it off, and we know how it turns out. So that's cool. So all the kids are sitting around on the couch in the living room, basically, and McKelty and Tony talk about how good David is with the kids, and they talk about how like the whole family is together, talks about how David had 8 kids. His wife passed away a few years ago, and so he had to continue raising these 8 kids by himself, and he did an amazing job, and all these kids turned out really good. So David put the time and effort in, and he was a full-time dad, a single dad. And when you kind of compare with Cody's like, he was a part-time dad, and then he was a no-time dad, right? So when we first start watching all the episodes from season 1, Cody seems to be a really good dad, and he looks like he's taking care of the kids, and he's helping out, and he's going from home to make sure everybody gets what they need. And then it just kind of starts tapering off until it's non-existent, especially when COVID happened, and he's just like, I'm done, I'm not coming to see any of you, peace out, hope you figure it out by yourself, and hope you stay safe, but I'm not going to be there. So that's what happened with Cody. But David was there the whole time, and of course Christine is going to be admiring that and knowing that if stuff goes down, David's going to be right there in the trenches with her, right? And Cody would be like hightailing it and saving his own butt. So that's how I feel about that. Truly, they asked Truly what her opinion is about David, and hers is the most important one because she's the one that's still the minor in the home. That if Christine accepts this man and they move in together, or they marry or whatever, which we know they do later, then she's the one that's going to be there all the time with him and she needs to have a good relationship with this person that she's going to live with. Tony pipes up, and I know Tony gets a lot of shit from people saying that he's terrible and all these different things. I think sometimes Tony just speaks before he thinks about what he's saying, and I think this is one case where he said that because he says he reminds me of Cody, and everybody just looks at him, and especially McKelty, if you can see what, like, she cuts her eyes over, she's like, you need to explain yourself, sir. And he's like, well, what I mean is, like, you know, they were raised in not the same decade, because they talk about how David is a boomer and Cody is a Generation X, and but you know, some of the music is the same, some of the customs and things that happened in the 70s, 80s are similar. The clothes differ, you know, they changed that around, but there are a lot of things that, especially to somebody really young that has not lived through that, may seem similar, or not similar probably, but they're more similar than David and Tony are probably. And then also I kind of wonder, like, at this time, Tony and McKelty are trying to maintain a relationship with Cody. So if you're too involved with the man coming in, especially this soon, then that could be seen as a betrayal by Cody, and they probably weren't ready for that at the time, or ready to handle Cody's, you know, ill will against them because they're hanging out with this new guy. So I think that's what's going on when he says this. Yeah, so, but we did discover David is a boomer, and they thought that was really funny, and everybody's like, I'm not a boomer, I'm an Xer. And then there's like, oh, he is a boomer, but he's very kind, and that's the main thing. He's kind, concerned, and he seems like one of those persons that will be with Christine if things get really bad. So he's not going to just up and leave her, or call her names, or make her feel bad about herself. Isabel, she talks about how she seems hesitant because it seems really fast to her, and for everybody looking in, it is really fast for her. But I can kind of see from Christine's point that for 30 years, or nearly 30, around 30 years, she's with this man who is not meeting her needs, and I'm sure many times she probably sat down and was like, I wish he would do this. I wish I had somebody that was more like this, that is there every day for my kids and me, who, if I say, hey, I need help, they're right there, and they're not arguing about, oh, I can't be there because I'm at so-and-so's house, I'm at the other wife's house. How many times did we hear that in the last few years? I'm at so-and-so's house, I can't be at your house. He said that, and he's done it, and we've seen it, and he just escaped from responsibility, I feel like. So 100%. Christine, you know, she really appreciates David. He's more affectionate. She talks about, like, she and Cody were never affectionate, so I'm sure it is very strange for the kids to see their mom affectionate with a man, because they had not witnessed that all these years. So and also, like, when you're raised in these really high demand religions, and they, like, almost make you feel bad, make you feel guilty about, like, having any kind of intimacy with the opposite sex. And then once you do, or once you're an adult and you get married, then I'm sure you still feel that way. Like, it's hard to get over that once you're kind of brainwashed to thinking that intimacy is bad. So I think Christine is more accepting of this being normal, and this is how a intimate relationship is supposed to work, and I'm sure she's, like, you know, breaking free basically and enjoying that. David is oh yeah, so he was talking about how he was okay with polygamy because his sister's a polygamist. So Christine was very happy that he understood it, and she didn't have to, like, go into a big explanation and convince him that it's okay and that she doesn't want it anymore. But yeah, it's just amazing. Christine feels this intimate emotional connection with this person, David, and it's the first time she's felt like this. And even her son Peyton says, like, this is the first time she's had a boyfriend. You know, she grew up, married Cody, had kids, and that was the whole relationship. And Cody's constantly like belittling her, making her feel bad about the relationship, not supporting her, being absent, and getting more and more absent as the years go by. So this is great that this person comes in, and I hope they have a happy, long life together. The next part, Janelle, she's visiting Maddie and Caleb around the holidays, and they talk about buying some property and building somewhere together, and they go look at property in Montana. She talks about how she went to Cody and she's like, hey, we need to pay this property off so we can split it up and see what we're going to do with it, basically. And Cody's like, well, I don't have the money for that. And Janelle's like, well, I've got my money sitting here. We need to pay for it before we don't have it anymore. And she's talking about how Cody just sits there and spins his tires and doesn't get anything done, procrastinates, basically. And she's like, it's so frustrating because I want to get it done and get it over with, and I have to like pull him along all these years. So you can see that, like when Janelle put the trailer on Coyote Pass a couple seasons ago, and Cody's like, what are you doing? This is crazy. I don't want to live in a trailer. But she's like, we got to make something happen. If anybody's going to get out here, we got to get out here and start working on things. And Cody's just like, I don't want to. I'm fine at my house with Robin. So the other three, like if they ever wanted anything, that they really had to be pushy about it. And I'm sure Cody gave pushback. And that's probably a lot also of why they all split up too, is because he got to the point where he did not want to participate or do anything to make the family work better, I think. Yeah, and she was talking about how she was tired. She's still in that little tiny apartment in Flagstaff, and she's like, I'm so tired of being in this little tiny apartment. I know it's temporary. I'm tired of being here. I want to be somewhere where I can, put pictures up and not worry about holes in the walls and not worry about other people's rules, and I can have a little garden that I can work on, and a more stable environment, I think, is what she was wanting to have, which makes complete sense, because Cody, we know every few years he's like, I don't want to be here, let's move away, and she's like, we just got settled into this place, we were just enjoying ourselves and appreciating having a home base. But he's like, nope, we're too stable, let's move. And that kind of makes me wonder if there was something about Cody. I would love to hear a counselor or psychiatrist look at this man, and I would love to tell us. I know there's HIPAA violations and things, but I would like to know what it is that makes him not want to plant roots and stay in one place for a while. And it seems like he likes this constant chaos. Things always have to be exciting, maybe, or he always has to have conflict, and you can see that through the years. He always has to change and make things unstable for the rest of the family, because it's like he doesn't like to sit still. So I would love to hear what somebody else thinks about that. Christine talks about when she was going to Nancy, their counselor, that Nancy had her list out what she would want in a relationship or in a partner in a relationship. And she's like, intimacy and kindness and all these different things. And Cody looks at this list and he's like, yeah, I'm none of those things. And that's just it. And what are you supposed to do with that if you're stuck in this marriage at the time? Because at the time they had the beliefs, the fundamentalist Mormon beliefs, and you're not supposed to leave, you're supposed to stay there, and you have kids together. And she was just going to live like that, and they were just trying to make the best out of it at the time until they didn't. She also talked about how David has a reputation for being honest, and she didn't like change her manner when she said that or make a face or anything that would indicate that, but Cody isn't honest. But I kind of wondered, is that kind of implied that instead of being a liar like we know Cody is, David is completely honest and upfront? So I thought that was kind of interesting. And I haven't heard anybody else pick up on that, but I kind of wonder if that's implied. She talks about how David's a great communicator, and we know Cody is not. even like when Robin is such a great communicator, he says, and she has to like grab his face and like, don't move, I am talking to you, listen to me. So, and that's another thing, like he likes to leave and make chaos, and he also has a hard time sitting still to talk to her. So there is something there. I am not psychiatric at all, as you know, a professional at all. I do some minor things, but I am not in depth with psychiatric diagnoses and things. But I think there is something underlying there. We talk about David and Christine talk about how good their relationship is, and they both feel that they are soulmates. And Christina said before, I think it was on one of the tell-alls last season, that she's like, I realized like David is my soulmate, and if Robin and Cody have this soulmate relationship, no wonder he couldn't stand to go over to somebody's house and away from his soulmate. She's like, that makes total sense. But they wish they would have known, right? If they had known that he felt like Robin was his soulmate. Even Robin said, and was it the first time we saw her, she's like putting makeup on in the mirror, she said, he's my soulmate. If they believed that way back then, does that make the whole show valid? I'm not sure, or invalid. But she was like, if he had said we are soulmates, you know, they could have like worked it out to where like they could have dissolved all these relationships in time and figured out what to do with the kids and still work together, but they didn't have to be married. But I also want to know when they stop believing in the AUB religion, because that is a big component of it. I've said it multiple times. I don't think that polygamy works outside of a religion that mandates it. And even then, as we see, it doesn't work with that. But especially if you don't believe in the religion and those beliefs. But does anybody know when they stop believing? Have they ever said? Because just the last couple of seasons are like, we don't believe in that religion anyway. We've moved away from it. So moving away from it and stopping believing are two different things. So not having a community that shares your beliefs is very difficult. But you can still believe. And he was holding like the little ceremonies or the little churches on Sundays or whatever when they were in Las Vegas, because we saw those several times. And then he stopped doing it, especially when they went to Flagstaff. We never saw it again. So I wonder if that's when he stopped believing. And did he encourage the wives to stop believing? He was the leader, so is he like, none of us believe anymore, and so they went along with it? I wonder how that happened. So I want to ask, see if one of the kids or somebody can answer that one if they know. But I'll see if I can find out. Cody goes to Mary's house, and this is the most uncomfortable breakup discussion ever. It's so uncomfortable to even watch. I'm like, why is this happening? This cannot be Cody or Mary's idea. Was it Robin? Was it TLC saying we have to have something in here for Mary to have input? I don't know, but it was very awkward. I don't think it was Cody's idea, though. I think they forced him to do it because he looked like somebody tied him to the chair when he sat down. Like he wanted to leave, but he was not allowed because he signed a contract saying he had to be there. That's what I think. And Cody's talking to Mary about the dissolution of marriage, or the release and all this, and he talks about, well, don't blame me if I don't love you. How many times he said that? If the wife is, if I love her, it's because of the things she's doing. If I don't love her, it's because of the things she's doing. He's like, and he yells like, blame yourself if I don't love you, right? So it's always her fault. It's not his fault. Well, if she doesn't love you, is it his fault? I would love for somebody to ask him that. That would be awesome. I think he would go nuts, but I would love it. So this led me to think, are his relationships all transactional, even with Robin? because they are not unconditional. When he talks about, I love you because of what you do for me, right? He doesn't say the for me, but it is implied, for me. Is that a transactional relationship? So we know that transactional relationships are usually short term. The fact that he's been married to these women for 30 years is crazy, but that has to do with religion, I'm positive. Robin, he has been married to for 12 years, and she has evidently been keeping up with what he needs. But these relationships are self-serving, 100% Cody, reciprocal, so meaning each one expects something in return. So if it comes to the point where Robin doesn't return on his investment, basically, will the marriage survive? I don't think so. I think this is what happened to the other 3 relationships. I think that the other 3 did everything they could for him for so long. That's why they survived for 30 years. And the minute that they started doing for themselves and not him, and he wasn't getting that reciprocal reward, basically, back, then he's like, this relationship's done. I don't want to be here anymore. They're not making me love them anymore. That's what happened. So if Robin ever stops reciprocating, giving something back to him, he will leave her. I bet you. They're also short-sighted, again, focusing on immediate benefits, and they are unstable. So like I said, if one doesn't decide to keep the bargain they make, then the relationship is broken and they leave each other. And I'm going to say in the next couple of years, that will happen. I can't imagine Robin going for 30 years and in this type of relationship. And I can see, like, when she talks to him on TV and things, that she's like trying to get to buffer what he says, and that's going to get old soon. So Cody talks about he was called by the AUB leaders after Mary went and got the release from them, and he was so upset because they used the word abandonment, and he's like, I didn't abandon her. But I'm like, buddy, look up the in the dictionary what the definition of abandonment is, and I swear you could probably see Mary's face in the picture next to the word, because he abandoned her. Absolutely. Who caused it doesn't matter. He abandoned her. I mean, they had that rough patch a few years ago, and he said that he was going to work on her with it and through it and try to improve the relationship and things. He was like, I'm having a hard time trusting her, but he was wanting to rebuild that, right? And then all of a sudden he didn't, and then he just like let her go without letting her go. He ignored her. He didn't make time for her. He didn't care about her, and he's just like waiting for her to leave. And he doesn't say anything that he wants her to leave. He just waits for her to leave. And then he again talks about he didn't love her. And I think this is a lie. I think in his 21-year-old mind, when Mary was 19 and he was 21, I think in their minds they were in love at the time. If you see we have all seen, I think, that their video from when they were married and they're dancing together, how happy they look. And there's been times that they stare into each other's eyes, and either they're the best actors we've ever seen, or at those times they feel like they love each other. So I think he is a liar. I think he loved her at the time. I think that his relationship with Robin, once he figured out that he's getting what he needs from Robin, that he didn't need the other 3, and I think that's why they all fell apart. He even mentions, like, compared to Mary, his relationships with Janelle and Christine were better than the relationship with Mary. And he says that he didn't love Janelle, or he basically tells us that he loved Janelle more like a friend, and they had a friendly companionship and some sweetheartness and stuff through the years. But he is like, I never loved Christine. I think that was a lie also. And we've seen like pictures of Aspen's wedding when Christine was dressed up and she looked so beautiful, and he told her how beautiful she looked, and they had like a nice little intimate moment right then, and I think that was real, and I think he did mean that he loved her and he thought she was beautiful at that time. And I think over somewhere between there and 2021, 22, whenever they officially broke up, I think it just fell apart. I think he just started doing less and less to be present into their relationship, and ended up just tearing it apart. And then Cody gets disgusting, and he talks about this concept of F and F. Nobody needed to hear that. Just him saying it made me want to gag. I don't want to even think about Cody like that. I mean, I understand things happen behind closed doors with his wives, and then now just his one wife, but I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to know his thoughts on that, and I thought it was unnecessary to include it. But if I was Mary, I would be livid if he said something like that about me. He talks about how confusing the relationship was, and again, I said this earlier, but he says we don't follow the faith. So all the time he says that we don't follow the faith. Why do they need to get a release from the AUB? And then in the next sentence he says, I didn't know I could leave. I was stuck in this relationship because our leaders say that we can't leave. The men have to stay there until the women decide they want to leave. But if you stop believing in that faith, that cult, I say, why did you keep up with keeping the women there? Why didn't you say, okay, group, I no longer have these beliefs. Who has these beliefs? Anybody have these beliefs? You may go, and you may go to this other person if you want, or let's all get released at this time. Let's figure out what to do with the kids at this time. That would be what a grown-up does. But, short-sighted, cranky Cody, he does not do that. He drags people through the mud, drags them on without providing any help or taking care of his family or anything like that. And I said last time, Christine, she paid for Isabel's surgery. She paid for Truly's hospitalization and things when she got so sick from kidney failure. Christine paid for all these things that the kids need. Christine provided for all the food, clothing, shelter, all the basic needs that these kids had. Emotional support was Christine. What did Cody do? Especially since they went to Flagstaff. How was he involved? I never saw it. And how can he look back and say that he was there and present when we don't see it? He's in this show. I'm sure they are like, hey, can we see you doing something with the kids? He's like, no, I don't want to go over there. So what are we filming? I mean, if it was done, it should have been filmed. I don't believe that. I believe that since it was not filmed, that it didn't happen. And what was filmed, I think, was specifically for the show, because I think he gave up at some point and he got burned out maybe and went a little crazy, and this is what we have. Mary does say that, so he says, what sucks is marrying the wrong person, which is so offensive. And Mary says, what sucks is marrying the wrong person, but not having the decency to tell her for 30 years. And I was like, go Mary, because 100% true. He should have told her many years ago, as soon as he fell out of love with her or had the feelings that he could not be with her anymore, he should have told her right then. He should not have drug it out from that point. Mary's a big girl. Christine's a big girl. Janelle's a big girl. If you're at the point where you don't want me around or want them around, tell them and help them, or help each other figure out how to manage the kids and how to do the day-to-day things that you were doing without being married, and let them go. Let them find somebody that will love them and appreciate them. Christine comes back and is so excited to have her own person. So she talks about how great David is, and they're having dinner together, and they're just so in love, you can tell, and telling each other how great they are and how much they are so glad to have them in their lives. And I'm sure Christine is just so happy that she doesn't have to share or fight with other women over her husband. So I am so happy for her, and I hope it is great for eternity. Then Cody at the end basically tells, they talk about Christmas, and Mary's like, well, I'm not coming to Christmas because we are exes and that would be awkward and I don't want to be a third wheel. And Cody says, well, Robin still thinks of you as family. And Mary's just kind of like, what? Okay, it's kind of family adjacent. It's just like we spent time together for this many years and now we're exes, and I don't really want to be involved because Robin for the last few years was like, hey, we want you here, we love you, whatever. And then Mary said, she doesn't call me, she doesn't talk to me, why am I here? And me and Cody are not together anymore, so there's no reason to go. Cody also says here that he disregards Robin's opinions. Since when? He's like, I'm my own man. Robin doesn't tell me what to do. And this kind of makes me think of like when he said, there is no head wife. There absolutely was a head wife. He absolutely listens to Robin's opinions. And if he's going to start not listening to Robin's opinions, then it's going to make his and Robin's life bad. He just said in the last episode, right now I'm just praying that me and Robin's relationship lasts and that God protects our relationship, and like kind of dumping the rest of the family, even the kids and stuff, is what it sounded like. But now he's like, I don't care what Robin says. She's not the boss of me. I'm my own man. She can't tell me what to do. How is Robin staying with this person? I'm surprised he doesn't have a fourth divorce, because he is speaking ill of Robin. Makes no sense. She's going to watch this. She's going to see this on television. That's got to cause some problems, especially the way it sounds. I don't know how Robin doesn't see through him. The other women finally saw through him. I don't see how Robin can't see how angry and miserable, and people say narcissistic. I can see that. He talks about, I was not in a patriarchy. You're absolutely a patriarchal person. And I think that's probably why he's having a lot of problems too, is because he's no longer in control of the entire family. And I think that injures his little emotions. Yeah, so I also wanted to know what the opinions are about, sometimes Cody says things like this F and F comment he made. Why did you say that? Was that just for shock effect? Like to get the viewers watching? It made me think of like when he was talking about, was that Suki's couch, or was it maybe he was by himself on the couch and he said, I might as well be the devil they think I am now. So is he playing as the villain to keep this story going, to keep TLC interested in keeping him on and paying him money because that's his main income? So I'd like to know what you guys think about that. Let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, all the things. You guys have a good week, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.